said it was trash. But now, neighbors slowed down just to stare. Welcome to Nailed It Now, where scraps become something beautiful. This video shows how old bottles turned into the most stunning garden border around. Timestamps are ready. Skip to what you need. Questions? Drop a comment. I got you. This is just an idea. Make it yours. Use what you have and build something real. And hey, maybe I'm just a face on a screen. But this is my heart. Every like, comment, and sub keeps a dream alive. Thanks for being here. Thanks for seeing me. There's something profoundly satisfying about giving forgotten things a second chance, especially when they line the edge of a garden bed, catching sunlight like glass jewels and whispering stories of reuse and gentle care. In one narrow patio nestled between warm stone tiles and a quiet wall, a border of plastic drink bottles has found new life. Half buried, alternating green and clear, they form a tidy line around a patch of rich soil. At first glance, it's clever. But then the sunlight shifts and the reflections begin to dance. Glints of light in leaf-shaped circles and soft shadows on the pavers. Suddenly it's beautiful. Inside that upcycled frame, marigolds burst in orange fire, their petals full and confident. Basil rises beside them, sturdy and fragrant, its leaves catching every drop of sun. These are not grand showpieces in sprawling estates. This is a tiny garden, thoughtfully made, where every inch matters and every choice is personal. In another quiet corner, the edge curves differently. Bottles, this time amber, green, and deep burgundy, form a tight spire around a round bed of chives and calendula. Their arrangement feels almost ceremonial, as if someone placed it with care of a mosaic artist. It's easy to imagine someone stepping out with a morning cup of coffee, brushing their hand across the flowers and pausing in the peace of the scene. What makes these spaces magical isn't just the color or symmetry. It's the intention. Each bottle once held water or soda, maybe passed around at a picnic or grabbed after a long walk. Now, in their second life, they cradle herbs and flowers, drawing boundaries not with fences, but with imagination. You don't need a big yard, expensive supplies, or even a plan that makes perfect sense on paper. All you need is a bit of earth, a few bottles saved from the bin, and the quiet joy of pressing them into soil, one by one, until the shape of your garden begins to appear. It's not just about edging. It's about ownership, about building beauty where others see waste, and about proving again and again that even the smallest space can bloom when seen with the right kind of eyes. Maybe today is the day to walk into your yard, balcony, or tiny patio and imagine where your border might begin. Some gardens don't whisper, they sing. And in one quiet backyard, tucked between a wooden fence and a bed of fresh mulch, the song begins in glass. Lined in a perfect arc, rows of upcycled bottles, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet, stand shoulder to shoulder like a handmade chorus. They're not hidden, not subtle, but joyfully present. Each one a burst of color, catching the morning sun and casting stained glass shadows across the path. It feels almost celebratory, like the garden itself is wearing a party dress made of light. Behind this rainbow wall, snapdragons rise tall and playful, their bright petals dancing in rhythm with the breeze. Lavender sways alongside them, sending soft perfume into the air, while petunias and daisies bloom like scattered confetti. Everything about this space feels deliberate and lighthearted, a mix of care and color that brightens more than just the soil. This isn't a grand design from a magazine. It's a patch of earth transformed by intention and a few saved bottles. Some may have once held wine, others soda or juice. Now they hold something better, a purpose, arranged thoughtfully and pressed halfway into mulch or soil. They create a border that frames life, color, and growth. It's not just beautiful, it's kind to the planet, kind to the budget, and kind to the soul that finds joy in reuse. The bottles don't match perfectly. That's part of the charm. Their imperfections add personality, just like the slight lean of a bloom or the tilt of a sunbeam. A rainbow bottle edge doesn't ask for much, just a few hands, a little imagination, and the courage to see color in what others discard. And once complete, it transforms a garden from a quiet patch into something that feels like laughter, like sunlight caught in glass. Perhaps that's what makes it so powerful. Not just a visual joy, but the message that beauty is often hiding in plain sight, waiting only for someone to believe in it. And maybe, just maybe, the next time a bottle clinks empty on your counter, you'll hear it sing too. Sometimes the most surprising beauty grows along the edges, quiet, practical, and full of humble intention. In the corners of small yards, where space must serve many purposes, an unexpected material rises from the soil. The necks of old bottles half buried, reused with care. One narrow garden path winds gently beside a line of glass bottles turned upside down. Green, amber, and smoky brown, their curve forms peak from the soil like softened stones. They don't shout, they hum. Behind them, black-eyed Susans and salvia reach upward, their blooms cheerful and untamed. The pathway beside them, dotted with stepping stones, invites slow footsteps and quiet moments. It's not formal, it's not forced, it's real. In another yard, the border bends around a young tree like a protective ring. The bottles vary in size, shape, and age. Some still carry their faded labels. But here, they aren't seen as trash. They are grounding elements, forming a gentle visual rhythm that echoes the cycle of growth. The lawn is clipped, the tree just beginning to stretch wide, and a handmade border gives the space a story, one rooted in reuse. Further on, a vegetable bed stands square and orderly, framed by plastic bottles filled with soil for weight. Their caps still on, the bottles create a clean edge, rising just tall enough to define the space without dominating it. Inside the bed, peppers and tomatoes climb bamboo stakes, their leaves dense and healthy. The surrounding gravel is tidy, making the DIY frame feel intentional and quietly smart. These are the kinds of fences that don't divide, they cradle. They don't say keep out, but rather grow here. There's a softness in their purpose, a kind of homemade hospitality that celebrates resourcefulness over perfection. And the best part? Anyone can make them. A weekend, a collection of saved bottles, a few minutes of digging, and suddenly a plain space becomes something personal, something protected, something loved. It's easy to overlook edges, but in gardens like these, they shine. As the light fades and the garden begins to hush, there's a moment, soft and golden, when everything seems to glow from within. In that still hour between sunset and stars, a humble pathway becomes something magical. Glass bottles, once tossed away or tucked in storage, now rise in two lines along a winding trail. Each bottle holds a small light, a solar glow, a flickering candle, a gentle beam that pulses like fireflies caught in glass. The path, once ordinary, shimmers gently as you walk. Shadows lengthen, and the garden seems to breathe. One corner of the yard curves gently through a bed of lavender and ornamental grasses. The upright bottles cast dancing light on the stones beneath them, like whispers leading the way. You don't rush here. You wander. You pause. You feel. In another space, the bottles vary in color, green, clear, amber, catching the last pink of twilight. The lights within reflect off one another like old friends talking. Nearby, a rustic bench invites you to sit, surrounded by pots of geraniums and evening air. It feels like a place made for remembering and resting. And then, tucked between ferns and begonias, a narrow walkway glows with homemade warmth. Some of the bottles are frosted, others still wear their original curves and imperfections. But when the candles inside are lit, none of that matters. The glow makes everything beautiful. This kind of garden edging isn't only practical, it's poetic. It guides you home and gently lights the way there. It's the kind of DIY that doesn't cost much, but gives back more than you expect. Beauty, calm, safety, and wonder. So if you've ever saved a wine bottle or found an old soda bottle rolling under a shelf, perhaps now is the time. Light it, place it, let it lead, and watch how your garden begins to glow, not just with light, but with life. In small spaces where every inch counts, there's a kind of quiet victory in making something truly your own, especially when it grows food, captures sunlight, and uses nothing more than what you already have. Here, the borders are simple plastic water bottles, washed label-free, some filled with sand, others packed tight with soil. They're not hidden or disguised, but proudly visible, standing like clear sentinels around a patch of fresh greens. The morning dew clings to their smooth sides, sparkling like a reward for thoughtfulness. Inside the square bed, spinach stretches tall. Lettuce ruffles open in green and burgundy waves, and tiny carrots peek from the soil like buried treasure. Everything looks abundant, alive. You can almost hear the crunch of harvest before it happens. In one variation, the bed is divided with clean lines, basil, cherry tomatoes, green onions. Each section bordered by bottles like a miniature wall of protection. The order feels intentional but not forced, the kind of system someone built with love and a few afternoons of slow work. A wooden crate nearby holds small hand tools. A pair of gloves hang casually on a pallet wall in the background, just above a few starter herbs in small pots. The whole space feels like someone returns to it daily, not to labor, but to check in, to care. This kind of garden doesn't demand acres or big budgets. It asks only for time, curiosity, and a few empty bottles saved from the bin. And in return, it offers herbs for your kitchen, vegetables for your plate, and a small corner of the world that you've shaped with your hands. Sometimes sustainability starts with soil, and sometimes the most ordinary materials, like yesterday's water bottle, become a frame for something delicious, green, and truly your own. In places where walls are close, where rooftops press down and sidewalks never sleep. A garden still finds its way to bloom, and beauty still finds its way to shine. Here, glass becomes color. Broken bottle pieces, rescued from discard, are given new life. They're shaped, softened, and arranged into patterns across the edges of flower beds like fragments of stained glass. Each shard, once overlooked, now sparkles like treasure in the light. Some borders flow in waves, a sea of sapphire, jade, and amber undulating across a bed of lavender. Others form neat geometric designs, triangles, diamonds, squares, lining a concrete planter where dahlias sway and hostas unfold wide leaves toward the sun. Every border speaks of hands that took the time, of a vision made real with patience and care. One garden wraps in a soft arc around zinnias and sage, the edge trimmed in bottle-bottom circles and tiny glass tiles, embedded lovingly into mortar. A silver watering can rest nearby, as if just set down after the day's tending. The whole scene is a quiet celebration of reuse, a testament to what happens when creativity meets constraint. The glass catches the light differently with each hour, bright by noon, glowing at dusk, and glinting under streetlights after dark. It's the kind of border that draws eyes and conversations, even in the smallest front yard or narrow patio plot. And perhaps what makes it most striking is that it didn't come from a store. It came from the things we usually throw away, shaped not just by cement, but by intention. A border built not only to hold soil, but to hold the story of transformation. In every bit of green that grows above these colorful mosaics, there's proof. Beauty can be grown, built, and pieced together, no matter how small the space. Some corners are forgotten, others bloom, tucked gently into a quiet patio alcove. An old spiral of discarded bottles found new meaning. Once tossed aside as trash, their clear and green curves now looped inward like a meditative path, guiding the eye to a crown of golden sunflowers reaching for the sky. The symmetry, precise yet playful, drew soft wonder from anyone who passed by. Beneath the glassy loops, the earth was dressed in dark mulch, peppered with cheerful ground cover, blush pinks, butter yellows, and ruby reds, all planted low to hug the soil and fill the spiral with life. A pattern that once belonged to chaos now brought calm. At the edge, a vintage wooden chair stood beneath the dappled afternoon light, inviting pause. Its cushion slightly faded, perhaps from many moments already shared, offered a perfect place to sit and admire the slow, circular rhythm. In another corner, someone had turned the bottles upward, planted directly into soil like dark brown columns. They stood guard around a terracotta pot brimming with mint and marigolds, each level rising gently, echoing the spiral's form. It was simple, clever, and irresistibly charming, the kind of creation that begged for replication. There is something poetic about taking what's unwanted and reshaping it into beauty. These tiny spirals didn't require much, just time, intention, and a handful of hands willing to dig and dream. Perhaps, if you have a quiet corner too, it's waiting for a spiral of your own. There's a hush that falls over a garden room made by hand, a kind of silence that listens more than it speaks. I found it once behind a modest white fence, just past a bamboo screen, where old bottles had been given new life. No longer forgotten trash, they now formed vibrant borders around green dreams and blossoming edges. The first was a circle of cobalt blue, rich and regal. Each bottle pressed shoulder to shoulder like old friends reunited. Inside their embrace, hydrangeas lifted full heads of bloom, blue, and lilac and white, surrounding a single rattan chair and a weathered table, just large enough for a mug in a quiet morning. The bottles caught the morning light, casting streaks of sapphire across the grass. It didn't feel like a corner of a yard. It felt like a hidden retreat for the soul. Around another bend, I saw a raised bed tucked beside a pale wall. Green soda bottles had been cut clean and buried neck down, creating a tidy edge like garden soldiers protecting their crop. Inside grew parsley, dill, oregano, fragrant, lush, and thriving. The green bottles mirrored the herbaceous bounty, as if the border itself were alive and growing. Nearby, rows of terracotta pots lined a shelf, hinting at more tiny culinary experiments yet to come. Then there was the red room. From above, it looked like a patchwork of fire and sun. Red and amber glass bottles hemmed in a tapestry of peppers and nasturtiums, the soil dark and rich beneath them. Stepping stones made a crooked path through the heat of color. The chili plants held up their fruit like little torches, and golden petals spilled freely between their stems. This was no passive garden. It pulsed with energy, alive with flavor and boldness. Each space felt different, each one made with simple things: discarded bottles, bits of soil, and the time someone took to shape them into something beautiful. These weren't just borders. They were boundaries for joy, creativity, and quiet pride. If you ever come across a handful of empty bottles, green, red, blue, don't throw them away. They might just become the fence for your next tiny sanctuary. A room made not of bricks or wood, but of color, care, and a belief that even the smallest garden deserves its own door. In the softest corners of the garden, where light bends and shadows dance, I once stepped into a space quietly framed by bottles, each one a vessel for sunlight, a story in glass. They stood tall and still between wooden ribs, forming a wall not to close off, but to filter and frame. It wasn't a grand structure, just a thoughtful one, and it made the smallest patch of green feel like a sanctuary. The first wall I saw was built of green and clear bottles, placed in alternating rows between pine slats. Morning sun flowed through them, casting ripples of emerald and gold across the neat rows of rosemary and thyme. The scent of crushed herb lingered in the air. A clay walkway lined the edge, just wide enough for one slow walker in the light. Oh, the light made every leaf shimmer as if dipped in dew. Not far from there, tucked into a patio corner, was another version, a fence of bamboo and upright plastic water bottles, their blue caps catching the sky. The bottles didn't glare like solid panels. They glowed. They let through enough light to keep basil happy and tomatoes blushing red in their pot. The breeze stirred the bamboo gently, and the whole wall whispered with the sound of swaying reeds and rustling leaves. Then came my favorite, simple and poetic. Suspended upside down from strong twine inside a wooden frame, dark glass bottles created a curtain of shadows and shifting light. Each bottle hung at a slightly different length, like wind chimes without sound. Behind them, ferns unfurled and pink snapdragons reached toward the filtered light. When the wind moved through, the whole piece came to life, a slow, silent dance of repurposed beauty. None of these walls shouted. They didn't take much space. They didn't demand attention, but in their quiet way, they offered structure, softness, and something magical. Just bottles, light, and a little care. A reminder that boundaries can be beautiful and functional, and that sometimes the best way to make space feel bigger is to filter the light, not block it. If there's a sliver of space beside your garden, a stretch of sun that feels too sharp, consider building your own bottle wall. Let the light in, let it shift, and let it remind you that even fragments of glass, of time, of space, can come together to frame something lovely. Some afternoons, the light plays tricks on the garden. It slips through colored glass like it's brushing canvas, painting small pockets of magic into quiet corners. That's what drew me to the idea, building tiny rooms not from bricks or wood, but from bottles bright and bold, each one whispering its own hue into the story of the space. In one corner, tucked beside the wall, green bottles stood proudly shoulder to shoulder. Each one once held soda or sparkling water, but here, inverted into the soil, they became guardians of herbs. Inside the crisp green border, parsley, dill, and oregano reached upward, breathing in the filtered sun. The scent was always fresh, an invitation to touch, to taste, to remember that flavor could begin right at your doorstep. A few steps away, the tone changed. Deep blue bottles formed a perfect circle, a bottle fence that cupped the world gently in its palms. Inside bloomed hydrangeas the color of early twilight, lavender, sapphire, and lilac, as though the flowers were chosen by dusk itself. At the center stood a rattan chair and table, sun-dappled and welcoming. I would sit there some evenings, book in hand, soft petals brushing my ankles as I sipped tea in a sea of calming blue. Then there was the wild one, the red room. From above it looked like a painter's palette, glass bottles in ruby and garnet, enclosing a riot of color and spice. Nasturtiums spilled their orange faces across the soil, while crimson clover danced between young chili plants, their tiny fruits already glowing like embers. Flat stones meandered to the bed like a casual footpath, offering just enough room to tiptoe through this little garden blaze. Each room had its rhythm, its color, its mood, and none of them cost much at all, just bottles gathered from neighbors, friends, and a few cafe bins. With gloves, patience, and a little soil, the transformation began. No cutting, no drilling, just arranging gently until the shape felt right. The rest was left to water, sun, and time. These garden rooms didn't just grow plants. They grew stories. A space for basil to thrive beside bamboo. A nook for violet petals to rest beside cobalt glass. A narrow path that tingled with the scent of oregano and the promise of heat from a ripening pepper. And you could begin with just one bottle. Green, maybe, or amber. Just enough to hold a corner of soil in place and give shape to a dream. What grows from there might surprise you. Some evenings carry a hush that feels like magic, the kind that makes you slow your steps just to listen to wind and wonder about the world quietly lighting up around you. In one small garden tucked behind a home's patio, that magic unfolds with every falling shade of dusk. As the daylight fades, the edges of the garden begin to glimmer, softly, gently, under the embrace of night. There, along the modest vegetable bed, rows of repurposed plastic bottles awaken with pastel hues. Pink, mint, yellow. They glow not with electricity, but with the memory of the day's sun, stored in layers of solar paint brushed on by hand. Leafy greens rise from the soil like a chorus, their emerald heads now kissed by subtle light rather than searing sun. The bottles not only protect the edge, but offer an evening invitation to linger. A few steps further, down a winding path between beds of lavender and thyme, another border emerges. There's one lined with old wine bottles, each painted in soft blues and glowing greens. Their necks stand tall like lanterns guarding a dream. A wooden bench waits beneath a spreading tree, golden light spilling around its legs. It's the kind of place you imagine stories being told or silence being shared. Closer still, a flower bed framed with bottles of every shape and color glimmers beneath a cluster of tiny stars. The bottles sparkle with flecks of solar-reactive pigment, their gentle glow mirrored in the faces of alyssum and calendula blossoms nearby. A lantern set on a stump flickers warmly, casting layered shadows as fireflies drift lazily through the air, as if drawn to the bottle light. Creating these glowing borders is less about perfection, more about the gentle joy of making something from almost nothing. A coat of solar paint, a bit of time in the sun, and bottles that once held a past life now hold light. No wires, no waste, just beauty that arrives quietly each night. And maybe that's the real gift of these glowing paths. Not just their charm, but their invitation to pause, to walk slower, to admire lettuce leaves under pink light, to sit among lavender and feel the hush, to craft your own small corner of enchantment. In the hush of early morning, before the sun is fully cast its warmth, there's a quiet kind of wonder in walking the garden paths. The air is cool and sweet, and somewhere amid the rustling lettuce leaves and yellow calendula blooms, a sense of intention begins to bloom. One such path leads to a slim, handmade raised bed, its frame strong with wood, its sides filled not with stone or concrete, but with stories. Recycled green glass bottles lie tucked neatly in rows, their curved bases catching glimmers of morning light. Lettuce unfurls its frilled edges, radishes push their ruby shoulders into the day, and bright marigolds peek proudly through the foliage. The border doesn't just hold soil, it holds history, repurposed with purpose. Just a few steps away, a different kind of border lines a soft bend in the garden. This one hums with the colors of plastic. Drink bottles, clear and blue, some still bearing faint labels of past refreshment, tightly packed inside a similar wooden frame. They support a narrow bed filled with zucchini blossoms and trailing nasturtiums. It's a quiet reminder that what once was waste can now nourish a meal, hold space for life, and soften the edges of a stone path. And then there's the smallest of beds, a tidy herb patch, carefully enclosed with a border of bottlenecks, color sorted like gems in a crown. Viewed from above, it glows with orderly beauty. Deep green basil, lacy dill, and bright cilantro thrive in the dark soil, while the bottle ring provides a playful mosaic of light and hue. The shape is clever, the reuse meaningful, and the effect pure charm. It feels intentional, loving, a celebration of small spaces, and even smaller actions. If ever there was proof that beauty can spring from scrap, that care can shape even the humblest cast-offs into something strong and sweet, it's here. These bottle-filled borders are more than practical. They are deeply personal. They say, I grew this, I built this, I saved this from a bin and made it into something better. And maybe, as the sun climbs higher and the scent of basil warms the air, you'll feel the urge to build your own story, bottle by bottle, seed by seed. As the last streaks of daylight fade and the first stars shimmer awake, the garden begins to glow, not from the moon, but from something lovingly handmade. along a narrow lavender path. Soft hues of solar-charged green and blue rise from a border of upcycled bottles, each hand-painted with care. The trail curves gently under the boughs of a sheltering tree, where a simple wooden bench waits for someone to rest and breathe in the scent of time and possibility. The bottles pulse gently like captured fireflies, not bright, but beautifully enough to lead your steps and calm your thoughts. In a quieter corner, tucked near a cozy patio, repurposed plastic bottles glow, like sorbet, mint, lemon, and strawberry, casting a pastel halo over neat rows of lettuce and kale. It's a humble vegetable bed, bordered not by fence or stone, but by the creativity of someone who saw potential in their recycling bin. The bottles, charged by sun and softened by dusk, glow just enough to make evening harvests feel like treasure hunts. Further back, where marigolds and alyssum brush the grass, a collection of glass bottles catch the stars. Their solar-reactive paint, now fully awakened, gives off a hushed radiance, amber, indigo, and seafoam. Between them flicker fireflies, real ones this time, as if nature herself approves. A lantern rests atop a stump nearby, its amber flame joining the quiet chorus of bottle light. No two bottles the same, some tall, some stout, some clear, and others cloudy. Yet together, they sing in harmony, lining the soil not with perfection, but with purpose. Each one is a rescued relic turned lantern, offering not only beauty, but gentle stewardship to the night garden. There's something timeless in this kind of magic, the way light becomes a language between earth and sky. And perhaps, as you sip your tea under the stars, you'll begin to imagine your own glowing border, one bottle at a time, lit by sunlight and guided by care.